He was just another homeless man to most. A shadow on the sidewalk, wrapped in old clothes, face worn by time and hardship. People passed by daily, never offering more than a glance. But what they didn't know was that he carried something no money could buy. His name was Ezekiel. Every evening he sat across from the Roosevelt Pediatric Hospital. Not to beg, not to steal, just to sit. He watched the windows, the children being wheeled in and out, the exhausted parents pacing the halls. He never spoke, just observed, almost like he was waiting for someone, that someone arrived on a cold, rainy afternoon. Victor Marnier, a billionaire tech mogul with everything a man could want, but not the one thing he needed. His son, Noah, had been paralyzed from birth. Dozens of specialists, hospitals, experimental treatments, and nothing. The boy had never walked, never spoken, just silence. Victor was leaving the hospital in defeat, again, when Ezekiel rose from his spot across the street and walked directly into his path. "Your son doesn't need more medicine," Ezekiel said softly. "He needs something deeper." Victor's security stepped forward, ready to push the man away, but Victor raised a hand. There was something unsettling, but strangely calming in Ezekiel's eyes. He looked not like a madman, but a man who had seen things others couldn't understand. "I know it sounds impossible," Ezekiel said, "but give me 3 weeks. 3 weeks with your son, and he will walk." Victor stared at him. Was this man insane? Or was he the only person who hadn't made empty promises? That night, Victor brought Ezekiel to a private residence on the outskirts of the city, watched over by doctors and cameras. He wasn't ready to believe, but he also had no hope left. The first thing Ezekiel did was throw out all modern devices. No machines, no wires, just him, the boy, and silence. He brought strange items, hand-carved wooden tools, herbs no one could name, and a tattered leather book filled with unreadable symbols. He spoke to Noah softly, placing his hands on the boy's chest, then his legs, guiding him through slow breathing exercises. Each day, Ezekiel repeated the same routine, waking at dawn, chanting in a low hum, placing warmed stones along the boy's spine, and whispering something no one else could hear. The house staff thought it was madness, but on the 5th day, something happened. Noah moved his toes. It was slight, barely a twitch, but Victor saw it. And so did Ezekiel, who simply nodded and said, "He's listening." The following days brought more progress. Noah smiled for the first time in years. His fingers curled, his eyes focused. Then, on the 9th day, he tried to sit up. Victor wept, not because it made sense, because it didn't, but because it was real. And then came the final moment. On the morning of the 15th day, with no warning, Noah stood. Not perfectly, not without trembling, but he stood on his own. Victor dropped to his knees, sobbing. How is this possible?" Ezekiel looked at him and whispered, "The body is just a reflection of the spirit. You healed his soul. I only reminded him how to listen." Victor turned to thank him, but Ezekiel was already gone. No name, no contact. Just vanished, as if he'd never been there. And from that day forward, Victor Marnier dedicated his fortune not to machines or medicine, but to the forgotten arts, to the people we overlook, the ones who may hold the power to change lives in ways science still can't explain. The miracle had happened. Word quickly spread. Victor Marnier's son, Noah, once bound to a wheelchair, had taken his first steps. And the one who made it possible wasn't a doctor, but a humble homeless man named Ezekiel. While Victor was filled with hope, the world was skeptical. Journalists swarmed and experts dismissed it as a hoax, but Victor stood firm. Let him try. Noah deserves this chance. Ezekiel stayed away from the spotlight, focusing only on Noah. Healing wasn't just physical, it was emotional. With encouragement, Noah laughed again, played, and regained confidence. But not everyone wanted to believe. Critics accused Ezekiel of fraud. Reporters dug into his past, hoping to discredit him. Still, Victor defended him. I don't care where Ezekiel came from. Noah is walking. That's what matters. As threats and doubts mounted, Ezekiel remained calm, committed only to Noah's recovery. Then came Dr. Alice Moreno, a respected neurologist known for her skepticism. She asked to study Noah. Victor agreed. Alice observed every session, intrigued by Ezekiel's humility and results. Over weeks, tests showed Noah's nervous system regenerating, an outcome once deemed impossible. Alice presented her findings. This case could change the future of medicine. Victor was proud, but Ezekiel stayed grounded. It's not about fame, it's about Noah. And for Noah, life was changing. He returned to school, made friends, and participated in activities he thought he'd lost forever. Before leaving, Ezekiel spoke with Victor under an old oak tree. I've known both wealth and ruin, but real wealth is in giving without expecting anything back. Without a goodbye, he vanished into the night. Noah's story inspired thousands. Victor launched a foundation to support children with disabilities through compassionate therapy. Noah, now dreaming of becoming a doctor, wanted to be a miracle for others. One day, he met Lena, a girl with a physical disability. Their bond was instant. Together, they advocated for inclusion and emotional healing, inspiring change at schools, hospitals, and even in government. Years later, Noah received a national award. Standing tall, he said, "If I can walk today, it's because someone believed in me. Never give up hope." Victor, proud and tearful, declared, "This isn't just a miracle, it's the triumph of the human spirit." Noah became a doctor. The foundation flourished, and though Ezekiel had disappeared, his legacy lived on in every step Noah and others like him took, a legacy of hope, compassion, and silent heroism. In a world driven by logic, science, and status, we often forget that true healing doesn't always come in the form of machines, medicine, or money. Sometimes it comes from the quiet wisdom of those we overlook, the ones society passes by without a second glance. Ezekiel was just a shadow on the sidewalk to most, but he carried a light no one could measure: faith, patience, and the power to see beyond what is broken. This story reminds us that miracles don't always look like lightning bolts or medical breakthroughs. Sometimes they come wrapped in humility, spoken in whispers, and delivered by the hands of those we least expect. Believe in the unseen, listen to the unheard, and never underestimate the power of hope shared freely. Because sometimes the greatest gifts are given by those who have nothing left to lose except their faith in humanity.